Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the October 4th Bay IC Tech Talk. And today we have with us Scott Rossi from Gilead and Prakash Granani from NextGen and Chris Chilakarai from who is the founder of NextGen Cyber Talent. So we've got a pretty exciting, well, I'm very excited about this talk because particularly the second half for our merit college students. And you'll hear more about a program that hopefully will keep you going all the way to the end of your cybersecurity certificates and degrees. But I wanted to really, again, start with promoting the relationship that the Bay Area Community College Consortium has with NextGen Cyber Talent in providing our cybersecurity students in our regional colleges with opportunities to get prepared for paid internships, primarily looking to have you get some experience in working in security operations centers. So Scott's going to start off with telling you about that training, what you will learn if you decide you want to become a part of that program. And then he'll turn it over to Krish and Prakash to tell you about the other program we're pretty excited about. So Scott, you want to take it away, share your screen?
Sounds good. Thanks, Olivia. Let me share my screen. And for some reason, my PowerPoint is acting weird, so I'm not going to put it in presentation mode, but I think folks should be able to see it okay. Let's see.
Yeah, looks like that looks good.
Okay, excellent. Let me just get this set up. Great. Well, thank you all for joining today. I'm definitely excited to be doing this with you all. I guess the first thing I'd say is don't be shy. If you have questions or want to interject or whatever, it's always more interesting if people do that than if I just talk the whole time. But that said, I'm prepared to talk for 20 or 25 minutes and we can do some Q&A at the end, but happy to have a dialogue here as much as people want. There's a lot of stuff going on with NextGen Cyber Talent, of course, and that's probably why you're here. This is an opportunity to hear something about SIEM, security information and event management. That may mean nothing to anybody right now, but hopefully it means, if it doesn't, hopefully it means something at the end of all this. Let me click here. Okay, what is it? We all know it is now October. More exciting than October is that it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so it's really sort of timely that we're all here talking about this together. I'm hoping to share this later, this deck, so the links that are here and the links that I put in the notes would be available to you. But if you want to find out more about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I put a link in for that. There's lots of great time to learn lots of things, become more aware for you or your family, like your kids, whatever, so that people are making smart, conscious decisions about what they do with their cybersecurity or just their activities in general. I wanted to start off on that with a quick note about me. My current role is I am the head of IT security engineering at Gilead. So sort of solution delivery focused, like looking at what are the cyber problems we're facing, the risks and threats, and looking at what we can do to mitigate those things. I've worked in similar capacities at Genentech, one of the great original biotech companies in the Bay Area, and Levi Strauss as well. So that's kind of me and where my quick work history, which the main thing I wanted to point out is I didn't take a traditional 4-year university path getting here. That we're here together tells me that maybe you haven't either, which is great. And I just wanted to highlight that this that still totally works. I went to high school in San Francisco at McAteer, which is now School of the Arts. From there, I went on my tour of community colleges, I would say, and had different interests along the way. Cabrillo College in Aptos near Santa Cruz. I wanted to be a firefighter. I studied fire science. That didn't quite take, but I was quite interested in it at the time. Went to Mesa College down in San Diego, did some more general education work. Finally came back to San Francisco, did more general education at City College. And from there, finally got into San Francisco State University, where I studied stuff that is completely not related to cybersecurity. But so what I will say is this was kind of transformational for me, that I finally found something that I connected with, and my grades went from, you know, sort of C's and maybe some B's to A's and B's, because I was really, really interested in international relations and Spanish. So those things really connected for me, and which made it so much easier to put the time and focus in to really start excelling. From there, with my desire to work in the Foreign Service for the State Department, I went to George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and earned a master's degree in Latin American economics. Again, totally not cyber, but as you know, as things go, I was finishing my degree back in San Francisco for lots of good reasons, and needed to, again, like we all do, needed to make some money to pay the bills. Found a part-time job at Genentech, working for their disaster recovery cybersecurity guy, which led to a career now 20 plus years long. That was 1997. And so I'm highlighting all this only because I really want to say there is no one path. Doesn't mean no one needs to go to a high school, to a four-year university to end up with, you know, I think of my career and the job I have today as a really great one. And so, you know, that's great for me, but I think, you know, whatever path you take, you can end up where you want to go is kind of my point. And the other thing is, look at the opportunities as they come up. For me, it was a job at Genentech. For you, it might be this or something else, but look at those opportunities and say yes when you see them. So the agenda here, the quick introduction, the part about me, we did that. So what we'll talk about that's more interesting is what kind of the internships and trainings that are available for learning. Just sort of talk about NextGen cyber talent. There's so many great partners with this organization. We'll talk a little bit about them and the kind of training that is available to students through the program. The focus here, of course, today will be SIEM, which is, again, Security Information Event Management. I use so many acronyms in here, so I'll try and say again what they mean as we go. By the end, you'll probably remember and hopefully know what it is. And then we'll talk about what is SIEM, who uses it, why it's awesome. And I really do think it is. Like, when you look at cyber and what's interesting, to me, this space is one of the most interesting ones. Literally the very day, just before the day that I learned about the opportunity to give this talk today, I was talking with one of my colleagues saying, if there's one thing that I would go do if I was no longer sort of a manager in my role, it would be to do SIM work, because it is that fascinating to get into the data. So we'll talk about SIM, why it's awesome. I'm sure you all agree by the end. We'll talk about first gen SIM, which is kind of the stuff that started 20 years ago, and there's still first gen SIMs today. And then next gen SIMs and how they bring analytics and machine learning to really go to the next level. And this is the kind of training that will be available to you. And then, you know, asking the question, is this a valuable skill that will help you start a career in cyber? If you're not doing that already, then, you know, yes, it is that. And before I go further, I don't know if there's an easy way to do this. You know, maybe you could put it in chat, but I'm just curious, are folks familiar with these terms? Are folks experienced in incident response or SOC work or anything like that? And there's no right answer. I'm just curious what you guys know about or already. So you know, you can speak up or just type something in chat if you want.
Yeah, there's, you know, we've got to still have a small group. So feel free to take yourself off mute or raise your hand or put it in chat.
This is Kay, and for me, I am like just the first semester for the second year at the merit. I learned some of the forensics
Okay.
and sport and couple like skill of the what did that say? Sorry. Yeah, and I'm going to take that incident response next semester, next 2 weeks coming up in the class.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Great.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining. I see a chat. What is UEBA? That's user and entity behavior analytics. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is in a bit.
Hi, my name is Dusit. I have a little bit of experience in SOC 2 compliance work.
Oh, cool, 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 great. Yeah, there's such a, I have a NIST framework picture here for later, but there's the whole life cycle, and all of those pieces are important for an enterprise to make sure that they're safe and secure. So that's great.
Oh, I think I got about like cloud computing too, about AWS and a couple Kubernetes, Docker. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that's great. I think it's all as all of the big companies are moving more to the cloud, it's like things kind of get more complex with all the other things we have to think of that aren't really in our four walls anymore. So cool. I know I'm talking fast, and it's because I want to keep it to my allotted time and make sure we have plenty of time for questions. So again, it's totally fine to interrupt, but that's why I'm talking so fast, so we get through this. I think somehow I ended up creating more content than than time. This slide's about what NextGen students are learning and in the program, and this is sort of the tech focus element of it. So through NextGen, as I think you all know, candidates can get started with education and careers in the broader cybersecurity space. And there's so much to that space, as Dusu was saying, like, sort of the SOC compliance, like there's compliance, there's privacy, there's cyber security, there's all of these elements in the sort of broader cyber and risk world. So there's elements of these things that are available to NextGen students. On the tech side, we have great partnerships with really leading cybersecurity vendors in spaces such as SIEM, insider threat, incident response, just to name a few. It's not meant to be comprehensive, but we have through the organization, we're connected with so many other great partners that are providing training on their solutions for NextGen students. I guess that's the bottom bullet. So we've covered that one. So I mentioned frameworks, and I'm not going to spend time here really, but I wanted to just kind of share these ideas. Enterprises manage their cyber risk and incident response through frameworks generally, and these aren't the only ones that exist, but these are ones that people follow. So you have your NIST framework that helps you kind of plan for risk and how you manage risk and mitigate risk, and then more specifically, and this is kind of where we'll focus today, is an incident response life cycle that contains how you detect and analyze, how you contain, eradicate, and recover, and then what you do to sort of the post-incident to make sure you've captured things and learned things, and that feeds back into preparing for the next time. So it just goes around and around. But these are the frameworks within which large enterprises work in order to manage their risk and improve in sort of incident response and better protect themselves in the future. I think Krishnan probably sees me talk about this report all the time and is like, why is this guy always talking about this report? But I think it's such a great report. So Verizon, it isn't just your cell phone. They see a lot of internet traffic because they provide internet service to at a broad scale to lots of people behind the scenes, right? So they see a lot. They create a report once a year called the Data Breach Investigations Report. Somehow I always think of just the acronym, but it's a really readable report that describes the kind of some major trends in the cyberspace. And it's like, so many things are so dry and so boring. This is not that. This is a really well-written, fun to read thing about a lot of scary bad data, but it's still really useful to read. So there's a link here. You can go grab this yourself. I recommend you read it. One of the things they talk about, whether they use the term dwell time or not, is the concept of dwell time. Dwell time as a concept is that the time while an attacker or a threat actor is in your sort of enterprise network before you realize that they're there. And so sadly, that often can, is weeks, months, or even years. And the longer that someone's in your environment, of course, the more damage they can do, the more data they can steal, that sort of thing. So the shorter you can keep the dwell time, the more likely you're to have, the more likely you're going to have some kind of like minor incident that you close out. It doesn't make the news. Nothing bad really happened. The kind of minor events you want versus the big breach. So that's the key, or at least one of the keys, is to make sure that when folks do get in, because there is no like perfect no one ever gets in situation. When folks get in, attackers, that you quickly identify, contain, eradicate, and go through your incident response process to clean that out, right? So that's a really important concept that leads into everything that happens here. So what is SIEM? Why is it important? So first we talked about the frameworks that we saw. So there's the NIST framework that kind of is the overarching one, and then the incident response process that you also follow that allows you to prioritize and respond appropriately. The way that frequently happens, there's a couple of pictures here I put in. Here's the top one is of someone who works as a SOC analyst in a SOC. So the Security Operations Center is the place where incidents are generally, detected and managed and resolved. So it's a critical place, and the person that does that work is the SOC analyst. In this case, this person is looking at a screen. Almost certainly what that's being displayed on that screen is a SIEM solution, Security Information Event Management. The lower picture is like the weirdest, oldest, funkiest SIEM architecture diagram I could find. And the main thing here is that all those boxes on the outside are pointing into one box in the middle. That's your SIEM. And what this is meant to illustrate is your firewalls, your Windows or your Active Directory domain controllers that do authentications, your really important applications like SAP, for example, they're all sending their logs into some place so you can have something analyze those logs to hopefully tell you if something bad is happening. So the SIEM is sort of the central nervous system for the SOC that helps the enterprise know what's going on in their company. And again, we've got the original for sort of first gen SIEM, and then the next gen SIEM that we'll talk about. I think, are there questions on this? Otherwise, I'll go into sort of a SIEM 1 example, and then we'll get into SIEM next gen. I'm gonna take silence. I don't see anything in chat. I don't hear anybody, which is totally fine, but if you have something, fire away. Okay. This is a SIEM v1 use case. And it's just an example of something I saw once for a SOC analyst. Seeing what you can see in this table that I kind of recreated should make, or would make, the hair on the back of your neck stand up for sure. And the question is why. If people want to throw some things out as to why, that's fine. Otherwise, I can point out the things that should make all of us look at this and go, oh my God, this is terrible. And first, before you answer that, the rule is the SIEM 1 rule, which is like, we define something that would tell us something we know is bad. If we see that thing, then tell us about it. So if someone logs in or attempts to authenticate 10 times in 1 minute for the same source address and the same username, that they're trying to guess the password, and fire the brute force login rule, attack login rule. So in this case, we see a bunch of those that have happened. So anyone want to venture a guess as some of the things that would make you think that this is really bad versus versus any old brute force login attack? I'll just go ahead and put some things out there, but if you have more to add, please do. I'll start from what for me feels like the least worst to the worst. Event time. These are happening at 2 in the morning when somebody is probably hoping that we're asleep and not paying too much attention. So that's one. The frequency, if you look at these, are happening over and over. You know, within a minute, you're seeing whatever there are here, 10 or so. The other thing is, if you look at the source country, so, you know, if you have a source address, you can figure out where geographically that traffic is coming from. So you're seeing, you know, if I'm a US-based company, most of my employees are going to be in the United States. And you look at most of these and I'm thinking like, Paraguay, do I even have somebody that works in Paraguay? So probably I don't. Why am I seeing an administrator login attempt coming from there? And then the very worst thing probably is
The root.
Oh, go ahead. What's that?
Is the root username?
Exactly. So these are all like really privileged accounts. So people are trying to guess, like root is, you know, the highest level account in a Linux box. Sys and SA are database privileged accounts. Same with system administrator, you know, for Windows. So these are all super privileged. You're right. So that's what, of course, if you're an attacker, it's where you're going to want to get in, because then once you're in, you can do the most damage or steal the most stuff. The last one here is that these source addresses are all from the internet. And if you think about a corporate environment, we're using private address space generally internally. So, so that traffic is routable within our company, but you wouldn't expect to see actual sort of public IP addresses being able to get to your authentication servers to even try to authenticate. So when you see that, you know something is really, really wrong. So I just wanted to share an example of what sort of SIEM v1 kinds of things would do. These sort of really static rules. You know that this kind of thing shouldn't happen, so you write a rule that says, if I see it happening, tell me about it so we can do some sort of response. From there, next generation SIEM, and I don't have any tables here or anything, but it's really goes to the next level. So you keep those simple rules that are, again, super valuable, but then you add stuff on top. And so we're talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence. We're talking about things like creating baselines. For example, if Scott usually logs in, you know, maybe at 7 o'clock in the morning and finishes all of his work by 7 or 8 p.m., the system can create a baseline that says most of his activities should happen in these hours. And it might also say, Scott usually VPNs in from San Francisco or someplace in the mountains. And then that sort of gets added to the baseline. So we know what is my typical behavior. Now, if for some reason there's the system detects a successful login, say, from, you know, Nigeria at 3 in the morning, you could start to see how that doesn't fit the pattern. And so the system would say, or let's say it's Shanghai, and I'll say why in a minute. So it's Shanghai at 3 in the morning. The system says that varies from Scott's standard and assigns some risk value to that. So maybe that just makes stuff up, right? So then that's a score of 7. And then if I do something else that also creates a risk score, that's a score of 10. And these things start to add together until I bubble up as some person that needs to be looked at what's going on that's outside of my norm. So the Shanghai example could be that I travel to Shanghai because we have an office there, or it could be because you know, someone is attacking. They figured out my credentials and they're logging in and stealing things, for example. so then you can get to automated response capabilities. So say you see the system sees this, it can be configured to tell my authentication system, well, this doesn't fit the baseline behavior. Let me ask him the next time he authenticates to do multi-factor on top of his normal authentication. That way we can really be sure that it's him, he's using his secure auth token or something like that. So it really allows for automated responses that better secure our data really quickly and automatically. Just a few other examples, and this is the tip of the iceberg for what's here. There can be peer group analysis, like everyone in Scott's position, in Scott's role, has these 10 permissions, but Scott has this 11th one. Like, what is that about? So again, some sort of deviation from a baseline. Land speed violations are the idea that Scott just logged in from San Francisco, and then 10 minutes later, he logged in from Nigeria. That seems like it's impossible for him to have done that. So that's like a really high risk kind of thing that gets flagged up. And so these high risk things, again, these calculations of risk get aggregated. And when someone gets a risk score over a threshold, you can have a person get an alert and dig in to see, does that make sense or does it not make sense? Do I know he's away in Shanghai on that business trip because I can see that in our travel portal, or is this something weird and somebody that isn't Scott is logging in from Shanghai? So these are the kinds of things that are there in next generation SIEM. And when you have all of this data coming in, it really is fascinating to start to dig into if that's what that's what you're into. That's what I'm into. That's why I thought it was awesome to begin with. But like going beyond the sort of one-for-one kinds of static rules is really what this next gen SIEM really brings, and why it's really a game changer for SOCs and SOC analysts. So is this a valuable skill set that will help you start a career in cyber if you aren't doing that already? I want to say 100% yes. I took this picture here on the right from the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So if you're familiar with Gartner, they're sort of a knowledge vendor, and they do assessments of different industries and different technologies in different industries. If you're going to be assessed by Gartner and you're going to end up in their Magic Quadrant for whatever sector, where you want to be is the upper right box. And Securonix, one of our great partners through this program, is in that upper right box. What that demonstrates is the completeness of vision. Out to the far right just means that their product is meant to work across the broadest set of sort of enterprise level functionality that's needed, that they see how people are working on-prem, but they're also working off-prem, that people are moving stuff to the cloud but they still have on-prem data centers, that, all of those things are kind of in their vision of what they're accounting for. And the ability to execute is, do they not only see what that picture is, but also have the means to support work in all of those different ways. So we're quite lucky that Securonix is one of our partners and is providing training for students in this program. I also want to highlight, of course, that Securonix isn't the only SIEM tool out there. This is a whole list of SIEM tools. What is great is that here and with any of the trainings you'll get in this program, the concepts totally transfer. So if you learn Securonix and you learn like what you tweak, the things you click on, the knobs you twist, whatever, might be different when you go from Securonix to IBM, but you're going to know the kinds of things to look for. So whatever the concepts are, they'll definitely apply no matter what you're doing. And so for me, I just wanted to come back to this. There is no one path, however you choose or however you end up in this cyber field. Remember to follow your interests, because if you do, the things that really engage you are the ones that you'll really be willing to dig into and learn about. So if this feels like one of those things for you, you should take this opportunity and say yes to it. So that's really what I had to cover. I know I talked a lot and talked fast. So if you have questions that I can answer or comments, I'm we definitely, I think, have time for that. And my email address is here if you have anything you want to reach out to me for later. But thank you guys for being here today.
Scott, I have a question related primarily to curriculum. We have a couple of colleges in the Bay Area that are beginning to implement AI, ML programs, either integrating things like data analytics, data aggregation, or we're looking at even a full AS degree. Should we begin looking at or thinking about how what about AI machine learning would we, to get students prepared for these next gen tools, should we be thinking about adding to our cybersecurity program?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think a lot of it has to do with the specific platforms on which these kinds of things run. They take a lot of horsepower, and there's several different technologies that support the kind of, that kind of work. So I think thinking about the underlying platforms that support these would be certainly one of the areas I'd focus on. I'm trying to think, and Prakash and Krish, feel free to jump in if you have other suggestions as well.
It sounds maybe like the tools themselves may integrate, in other words, at first your rules were very simple, but now they start to become a little bit more complex and integrated, etc.
Yeah.
And maybe the tool takes care of that. But a lot of times, I've always felt that, you can't automate something unless you know how it works.
Right.
So basically, that's what we probably need to think about. I don't want to dominate the Q&A here, but this is a very important topic because we want to try to stay ahead of what's coming. And if we can make sure that our programs are staying current by introducing thoughts and methods and processes that our students are going to encounter, as everything's going toward machine learning and AI, it seems now. And so just thinking ahead, I think we should, as I'm thinking from a faculty standpoint, we should start thinking about how we enhance our cyber programs to take this into account.
No, definitely, Olivia. I think it's a great question. So in this example, when Scott was walking through, even in both the first gen, like SIEM V1 use case and the next gen SIEM use case, right? There is still a human element involved, right? A SOC analyst looking at a dashboard, right? Think about, let's say, a person, and even if the log, right, while he was walking through and trying to decipher this IP address, this time zone, this account, right? For an analyst to look at one particular event to verify whether it's true or not, let's say it takes 2 minutes for him, right? For him or her, right? So if it's 2 minutes per event, and within an hour, they can only do like 30 events, right? And then how many people do I really need to have? You remember the complex architecture diagram that Scott was showing with so many sources feeding that many types of logs. We need to have the use cases filtered out. Even if the use case and the correlation has been smart enough to put a lot of logic, and if we filter it out, even if I have about 100 events or 200 events, like actual real valid incidents that's been triggered, somebody need to go through. I can't scale with the human a lot, right? That's why the AI and machine learning will come in a big time. It can figure out and then say, while the humans are looking at it, it can come back and say, hey, Krish, hey, Scott, have you seen this anomaly, right? Like the location and things that he was talking about, probably the machine learning can actually detect it. I never seen Scott log in through this type of access, or he was typically work with the volume of data, about 1 gig of data. Suddenly I'm saying 30 gig of data being downloaded by Scott. What's wrong, right? So those type of anomalies, the machines can actually detect it. And there are a lot of intelligence that can be put in, so that I'm not saying we will replace it with the humans, but it actually adds as a nice complementary on top of humans, right? So there are a lot of different scenarios that's coming in, Olivia. I think even Sniper, Securonix, right? They have a machine learning capability in that. They also, in detecting, they also actually build in. AI and ML is actually even robotic process automation. It's a big domain by itself. We'll have another topic and say how industries or how security professionals are actually using them in their day-to-day life. That's for another day. We'll get more deeper into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott? Scott, by the way, that was an outstanding presentation. Thank you. I think it's
Yeah.
it gave a lot of good perspective for folks. But I wanted to see, I know, Joseph, when you talked about SOC, it's a different kind of a SOC where you're trying to be like in a SOC type 1, type 2 reports or kind of looking at controls. This is like a security operations. I don't know if you had any questions and correlations, and maybe you were very quick to spot about the privileged accounts. So I'm just trying to tap into.
Oh, thanks. No, I'm just kind of starting out on my SOC journey, but this is fascinating to think about because I hadn't really thought about how machine learning could be applied to this, but it just seems like the natural next step. So that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
So Olu, you have your hands raised. I don't know if you have a question or if probably it's from your previous one, but if you have questions, go for it.
Yeah, so I was informed that about the paid internship program. So the paid internship program is student will learn Securonix per se. Is that right?
That is correct. If you join, if you become a member of NextGen, there is a registration process. You can go and put in your application. And then once it's done, we have Securonix is one of the training. I think it's starting up. It's pretty soon starting up. I think it's next Monday. We have a session on Securonix that's starting up. It's a 5 to 6 weeks program that typically the training goes on. It's a lot of them are self-paced training. You get a theory and you also get a hands-on experience with the lab. After that 5 to 6 weeks that you invest and you learn, you get certification from Securonix. And then what we do to all is actually we take your profile and we actually shoot it out to the Securonix customers, like Gilead as an example, right? Or somebody else who are using Securonix. We actually send them your profile, and then we try to identify opportunities for you, so that we also prepare you how to interview and what kind of mock interviews, how to prepare yourself, and then we try to place you for internships or full-time opportunities. So training is the first step, and then we actually place you afterwards as a second step.
Thank you. Yeah, and I checked Securonix website. It's interesting. The product target AWS, Azure, Okta, I think GCP. So actually target big tech companies.
I'm going to give you a link, and if you wanted to go and click on that registration link,
okay,
I'll put it on the chat window. If you're interested in Securonix training or other training that's been offered, you can definitely click on that link. It's on the chat window. Yeah. And put your profile and register for it, and I will include you in the Securonix training.
Okay.
I think all it takes is your time and effort to be there. It's zero cost. There is no dollar value for you to pay unless you're putting your sweat equity, which is your time that you put on, you learn, you get certifications, and you become successful. Meaning, once you get the certifications, we help you find a job, right?
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, if there isn't any other questions, I know Scott gave you an email address. I'll quickly talk about, which may be another important topic, which is the NextGen grant program. Thanks to Olivia and Stephen Booth, who are the main brain behind introducing this grant program. And NextGen partnered well with, as Olivia mentioned, with Bay ICT. And we actually initially modeled this grant program with City College of San Francisco. Now, today, we are actually very excited to actually extend that program to Merit College. Let me briefly talk about what the grant program is, right? So you're already studying in your community colleges. You're already taking some cybersecurity courses. Those courses, we have selected certain courses that are cybersecurity focused, and we have actually added them eligible for grant. So Prakash will walk you through how to register for it and how to submit your application more in detail. But you need to have a B- or above grade, and then you need to pass the certification, right? And you need to have unofficial transcripts. When you go to the application process, you need to enter them. That transcripts should have your name. It should actually have your college details and stuff. And that way we can process your application much faster. So each unit, actually 3-unit course and 1-unit course actually gets a dollar value associated to it. And what we will do is once your grant is approved, we will actually give you the money back for the course that you spent. Why do we do that? I think we wanted to really create more, we want to incentivize you so that you're reinvesting yourself in more in cyber and you're learning, right? And we want you to be more successful, right? And that was the main angle behind that we introduced NextGen grant program, and partnering with Olivia and Stephen and much more behind the scenes was working. And Prakash is one of the brain behind the platform itself. So that's what I'm very excited to actually announce it. So I'll hand it over to Prakash. He'll walk you through a lot more in detail. Prakash.
Thank you, Krish. Starting to share my screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
So I'm just going to walk you through some of the initial aspects, give you a bit of content. Krish has covered a few of them, but we are very excited to extend this program to the Merit College. We are expecting to launch by next week, October 11th. Certain things which I want to cover, and then we'll do a quick demo of how you can actually go ahead and register. Certain things you would want to keep aware that we pay for courses that you have already completed. We cover a certain set of cybersecurity courses as well as certifications. I'm going to show you a quick list, and that will also be available on our website once you're going through the process. Certain things to remember and is make sure, when you're registering, you are using your school ID, rather than a Gmail or any other email address. We do offer a maximum of 10 cybersecurity courses and certification grants. We pay back using PayPal or Venmo. So make sure you are, your email ID is associated with this program. And for Venmo, it's basically your mobile number. Anything with a B- or greater, we are eligible for courses, but you have to make sure you complete it. So in your case, anything after October 11th, if you completed a certification, or once you complete the semester, any of those courses that are eligible, you would be able to apply for them. All right. The entire program is a two-step approach. The initial step is to basically register onto the website, where you would actually put in your information and you will receive an email confirmation giving you access to our NextGen portal. This part you can go ahead and complete right now, once we release it. The application process also can be initiated, but just keep in mind to submit the actual application, you should have completed that particular course. So typically it would be end of the semester. We would require your unofficial transcript is also good, but make sure it bears your school name, your full name, and the semester that is being covered. Here's a list of the courses and the certifications that we'll be covering. You can have a quick look at it now, but this will also be published onto the NextGen application portal, where you can actually select one of them once you have completed it. Right, I'm just going to skip through this. And we also offer certifications. Most of these courses and certifications are geared towards getting you into the cybersecurity space. All right, I'll hold on for questions at this point, because what I want to do is show you the main website. So the site which Krish had shared, this is the nextgencybertalent.com. Once you browse in, this is the main page that you would see. You would need to go into the programs option. In the programs option, you get two selections. Training is where you can actually go in and register for training. So the cyber training, what Scott was mentioning, you would need to go in and sign up over here. We have all our list of courses, upcoming courses identified. You can definitely go ahead and register yourself for training, as well as give your interest for placements, be it internships, be it full-time or part-time. Today's focus is going to be on the grant program. We have segregated the logins, so these are two separate different logins that you would need to look at. From the grant program, you would need to go in and click on sign up. On the sign up page, you will be asked a question whether you have previously registered with us. If you have, we will ask you some validation questions. If this is your first time onto the NextGen website, you've not registered with us, you would click on no, and you would fill in some of the key details. Keep in mind the email, we are always recommending that you use your university address. Telephone number is important, specifically if you are using Venmo as a pay option. Name of the college, if you go today, we only have City College of San Francisco. Very soon we are going to be releasing Merit College would be one of the other options. Fill in as all the mandatory fields, make sure they're completed. We also give you an option to upload your resume. Now, when you upload your resume, what you are doing is making yourself available for any kind of placements. And do keep in mind that we are already starting to place candidates for next summer internship. So it's not too early. This is the right time. If you are interested in internships, make sure you upload your resume. You do need to certify that all the information is correct. And if you are looking for any placements, you would basically make sure you give us the authorization to share your data with potential organizations, because we need your approval, and you would need to click on submit. Now, this is the process you can already go ahead and complete by next week, where you would be registered, you will get a login. Now, what I want to do is I want to play a quick video for you just to give you an overview of what you would expect and how you would be able to complete the application process. What this particular one is the first step where you're actually registering yourself. The next step is going to be about how do you actually fill in all your details associated with that application. Just bear with me. All right. All right. This has audio. Just can you please confirm you are able to hear this?
Once you have registered for the grant program, you will receive an email from NextGen with your login credentials for the grant application. Click on the URL listed to take you to the site. Enter the user ID and the password which was provided to you and click on Sign In.
Prakash, we're not seeing you're seeing a second screen, I think.
Oh, my bad.
Sorry.
Start it all over again. Sorry about that. Are you able to see the video now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second. I need to make sure I click the audio on. Yeah, I'll just play that all over again.
Once you have registered for the grant program, you will receive an email from NextGen with your login credentials for the grant application. Click on the URL listed to take you to the site. Enter the user ID and the password which was provided to you and click on Sign In. You will now be asked to set up a multi-factor authentication. You need to select at least one method. From a security perspective, we recommend that you use Google Authenticator or Okta Verify. Make sure you have the selected application downloaded on your smartphone. Follow the prompts on the screen to complete your enrollment. Once completed, you will now be asked to set up a new password. Use the password provided in the email as the old password and type in a new password. Remember to follow the password requirements mentioned here. Next, you need to select a secret answer which can be used in case you forget your password in the future. Once you have completed this process, you will get access to the NextGen portal. Click on the NextGen Cyber Grant Management icon. To submit your first application, click on View Programs and select the current grant program by clicking on More, then click on Apply. You will now be guided through a set of steps to complete your grant application. Select the appropriate options for the pre-application questions. Please note that in order to be eligible for a grant, you should be enrolled or have completed courses in accredited programs and should have received a minimum grade of a B-. If you have not met either of the criteria, please contact us via email to further assist you. On this screen, you can see how many courses you have funded till date. As this is your first application, you do not see any number here. You would need to identify how many courses and certifications you are applying a grant for. Keep in mind that you cannot change this number as this application is in progress. The next step is to fill in the candidate information. Most of the information you had provided during the initial application is shown here. Correct any inaccurate details. Also, ensure you are correctly identifying whether you would want to be paid via PayPal or Venmo. Click on the legal confirmation after you have read the details and select Mark as complete. Next, select Candidate College Information tab on the left panel. Fill in the required details. The next step is to complete the grant details section. Identify if you would like to claim a grant for a course, certification, or both. Then select the semester or quarter for which you are applying for a grant. On the next screen, identify your college and select the course and/or certifications. Here you can choose if you would like to connect with other NextGen programs. Finally, based on your selection, you should upload the relevant certifications and/or transcripts related to the grant request. Once you have completed this, you will have a chance to review your application, and once ready, click on Submit Your Application. Our grants program team will review your submissions and will be in touch for the next steps. You should expect an email from the grant team once the payment is processed. Thank you for being a part of the NextGen Grants program.
All right, so now we have a few minutes. I want to keep this open for any questions you guys might have.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
So just to be clear, we apply for the grants in the semester that we're going to be attending the program?
Yes, you can apply for the grant now, but you would need to complete the course. So by the end of the semester is when you can actually submit the actual application, because we would need a copy of your transcript validating that you have passed it and got the required grades.
Okay, so you have to, okay, cool. I got it.
One thing I'll clarify, which we have seen, it's only for the last semester that you've done, right? So sometimes we have seen people who have done courses last 5 years back, and then they try to submit those transcripts. We are very proud that you completed them, but I think unfortunately for the grant, for you to be eligible, it's for the last semester, right? For City College of San Francisco, we did the spring, right? So we actually took them in. For you, the current semester is what we will take Merit College for.
This is Kate. May I have a question about how the grading? How do you grade this program? And if the student couldn't make it to B-, what is going to happen?
So basically, we do have minimum requirements. We are trying to, we do want to get a B-. Now, Krish, do we have any exceptions?
No, we don't have any exceptions, but I think, okay, what will happen is if you take B- or above, you're eligible for the grant. So you're going to get the money back for the unit that you submitted in the college, right? But if you didn't take the B, if you didn't get B-, if you're lower than that, which means you can always come and join NextGen's training program and other courses where we can still make you eligible for jobs. Just for the grant for the courses, you may not be eligible for that. That's the only piece, right? But you
So,
still have other opportunities for jobs and internships and stuff as well.
so all the grading will be depend on the test and the lab and the quiz that you have to study with.
So the grading for the B- grade that we're looking for is not a grading that NextGen provides. It's what Merit College provides. In Merit College, when you're taking the courses, whatever grading that you're getting as part of the college is what we're looking at, right? So it's not our grading. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Valid point here.
Yeah, thank you.
That is why that your unofficial transcript is required when you apply.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question. Sorry. Unofficial transcript means it's the back of the spring class or the summer. It needs.
So in the case of Merit, we are, since we're launching the program mid-October, so any courses that you have taken, courses or certifications you've taken after 11th of October will be eligible. So if you've completed a certification in October, November, you can apply for it. For being eligible for a course, you should have taken it in fall 2021 and should have completed it. And you can then apply for a grant for that course.
Okay, is that, can I mention, for example, in 2020-21 fall? For example, I am currently a student in the fall in 2020-21.
Right. Yes, you can. So at the end of this term, once you get your, once you clear it, you can submit your official transcript and you will be eligible for the grant once you meet the criteria.
Okay, thank you.
So for the courses, you would have to, you would be eligible for courses that you finish fall of 21. Okay. But if you sat for certifications, say you got your CompTIA Security Plus, I think Network Plus is on that list. If you completed a certification after October 11th, you could immediately apply for the grant for completion of that certification.
Any other questions? Any feedback as well? Hopefully you guys are excited. We are excited to extend the grant program to Merit College. Hopefully you are as well. We all want you to be very successful in cybersecurity, and we all want you to actually join a company and work for a company and be in cybersecurity, right? That's what makes Olivia, Prakash, Scott, myself all happy when we see you in a cybersecurity job, right? So hopefully you are excited too. Yeah.
This is an incentive to keep going. This I call it a completion incentive grant. In other words, to keep going toward that goal of getting your either you're working on a certificate or you're working on an AS degree. That is a whole intent to keep you on track and incentive to keep going. That's what it's about. We found that one of the things that we're finding, from us working in the community college cybersecurity programs, is that we lose a lot of students because there's so much demand on their life outside of going to school. And a lot of time just to get a little help with continuing can make the difference. So that was one of the reasons that Steve Booth and I were really excited about this, is because we were seeing and talking to students who were telling us that, hey, I don't know if I can keep going here because I got to work 2 jobs and go to school. So anyway, we were really hoping that this would this will keep you guys going, and hopefully you're excited about that. Well, thank you all for participating. It's a little after 7, so we've had a full hour. I encourage you to share this with your classmates that weren't able to attend. Maybe they're in a class or they're working So please let them know that this is going to be recorded. It will be on the bayict.org. I put the link in the chat, and I will look at getting both Scott's slides and Prakash's slides, and we'll somehow figure out how to add a link on the page as well. We usually just put the recording on the page, but I'll figure out how to get the slides. And maybe what I'll do is I'll give them to Sandy at Merit, give the slides to Sandy, and she can get them out to you. I think that might be the best way to do it. Okay.
And Olivia, do you want to touch on the Cybersecurity Awareness Month? There's a seminar.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of the things I learned when Chris joined the call is NextGen Cyber has a lot of activity going on for Security Awareness Month. So tomorrow morning, first thing, I'm going to get that added to our website as well, and blast it out to our cyber faculty to let them know that hey, share this with our students. So we'll get that out there. So
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you all. This is nice to meet you all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you guys for attending.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
bye-bye.
Exciting.